So we can take advantage of the fact that light refracts when it goes into dense materials to make things called lenses. So because light bends, we can take advantage of that to kind of control light. There are two main types of lenses. One of those types is a converging lens. So I've got here, this is a converging lens. It's also often, this particular example is called a biconvex lens. So when light travels through a biconvex lens, the light bends towards something called a focal point. So this light's all coming in here, it bends when it goes through the converging lens or the biconvex lens, and it all converges to this single point here, and this is called a focal point. I'll clear that off a bit. So the focal point here, and there's actually also, all lenses have got what's called a focal length. So if we measure from the middle of the lens to the focal point, this is actually called our focal length. So we can denote that by the symbol F. We'd measure that in meters. So converging lenses, this is an example of biconvex. The light converges to a point. Here's a great example of one in real life. A biconvex lens, the light converges to what's called the focal point here, and we can use that. The great example of those, the magnifying glasses use converging lenses. Lenses are really useful. That's just kind of one example. Another type of lens is a diverging lens. So this is a biconcave. I remember concave because it goes in kind of like a cave. Biconcave lenses are diverging lenses. So the light, when it hits a biconcave lens, it makes it diverge into these, makes it spread out. And because it spreads out like this, it's actually got what is called a virtual focus point. So if you trace, the rays of light are actually traveling off in this direction. This is another ray of light traveling off in this direction. Here's a great example. These rays of light travel off. But if we trace the rays of light backwards through these dotted lines, we can actually get to a point where they look like they would have all come from. And this is called, this little dot here is called our virtual focus point. So diverging lenses also have a focal length. But this goes from the virtual focus point to the middle of the lens. And so that's really a bit about lenses. They're useful in microscopes and telescopes and magnifying glasses and contact lenses or prescription glasses. But lenses, they can either be converging and the light converges to a focal point, or they can be diverging. An example of a converging lens is a biconvex lens. An example of a diverging lens is a biconcave lens. That's all about lenses.